Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And we get into our big stories. For starters, we're going to be talking about the situation between the Office of the Special Prosecutor versus LABIANCA. And the OSP has decided to undertake a full-scale probe into all tax waivers granted by the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to various companies. Now, according to Joy News sources at the OSP, the investigation will include that of LABIANCA Group. LABIANCA Group of Companies, a frozen foods company owned by a member of the Council of State, Eunice Jacqueline Bua Asomahene. The source also divulged that the probe is geared at considering a prosecution and will possibly partner with other key investigative agencies, including the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO for short. Today, we discuss the brouhaha with our guests. Bobby Banson is a lawyer. He'll join the conversation shortly. We also have Guildfred Isiama, research fellow with the CDD, Mensa Thompson, executive director for ASEPA. All of these gentlemen joining the conversation. But let's start with Mensa Thompson, executive director for ASEPA. You have also, in recent times, on the back of this development and on the back of the different letters that have been written by the freight forwarders and traders, by this outfit, that outfit, customs, you've also thrown in your own two pesewas, if I may. But what do you make, Mensa Thompson, of this conversation so far, this development in terms of the CEO of LABIANCA and the special prosecutor going after her? What are your initial reflections on that situation?
Cherished viewers, I think it's a very difficult situation that we find ourselves in. What makes it interesting is that the character in question is someone who sits on the advisory council that advises the president, which we refer to as the Council of State. And it raises significant questions on the criteria and how we appoint people into certain positions in this country, what sort of background checks. And when I say background checks, I don't even mean just criminal verifications or criminal background verifications, but even business and commercial interests. Because you see, when you put people in a situation where their commercial and private interest could conflict with the larger interest of the state, then when some of these things happen, you can't turn around and blame everybody but yourself, because you are the cause of the problem. You created a fertile ground for this to happen. And the question that I've been asking myself since this issue broke has been, how come one person, same person, sits on the Council of State advising the president, and the same person sits on the Ghana Port and Harbour Authority Board? And this same person is one of the largest importer of frozen foods into our country. How did we get here? It's something that we must answer before we even get into the larger
But even before you go on, Mensa Thompson, we'll also take a look at your statement. But I just want to find out from you. The Customs Division, among others, even the freight forwarders, the traders, have said that this is not an entirely new enterprise. That has been happening. So why single out what has happened with LABIANCA? What exactly is wrong with it? It's not something that is not the norm. Actually, from what we've been told, it actually is a bit of a norm.
Well, I don't think anybody is singling her out. I think what has made her case peculiar is the fact that she sits on the Ghana Port and Harbour Authority Board and sits on the board of the Council of State. These are all influential positions. Now, particularly on the board of Ghana Port and Harbour Authority, we do know that our port is managed by the Ghana Port and Harbour Authority, who is in charge of operations at the port, and the Customs Division of GRA, who are in charge of revenue collection at the port. So these two agencies are working together and in synergy. Now, this so-called tax reprieve, which they are referring to, that is not a new thing. They give these tax reprieves every now and then. Granted. Now, before customs can arrive at a decision to even give somebody that tax rebate or tax incentive for imports, some conversation would have happened between them and the port authorities. Some assessment would have been done, some background checks, some verification would have been done, which involves the participation of the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority, on whose board this character in question sits.
It appears we're having some challenges with the connection with Mensa Thompson, Executive Director.
And for me,
go ahead, Mensa Thompson.
Yes, and Benjamin, for me, I think that it is on the back of this that we have even petitioned the president for her removal, because what we are saying is that
for her removal based on what exactly? Yes,
based on the fact that she defies the requirement of sitting on the Council of State, because one of the key requirements of sitting on the Council of State is to have high moral character. High moral character. And we believe that if this woman in question have any moral character to the extent of sitting or granting her leave to sit on the Council of State, she would have rejected the nomination for her to sit on the board of Ghana Port and Harbour Authority on the basis that she has commercial interest at the port.
So you think there was a clear conflict of interest?
In fact, it's so overt that you cannot even discount it. Very clear conflict of interest. That you are the largest importer of frozen food into the country, and you sit on the board of the Ghana Port and Harbour Authority.
Right.
That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. And so for me, it is on this basis that we say, look, this person cannot have high moral character. But if she has integrity, she would have rejected that nomination on the basis that she has commercial interest at the port. And that's why we said that, look, the president must remove this person. However further investigation the OSP is going to do.
Right.
I mean, on the back that she has refunded monies back to the state and the preliminary report issued by the special prosecutor, the woman must go home.
Hold for me. We're going to splash on your screen, if possible, that statement that ASEPA put out. But Samuel Kojo-Brace is still here with me, and he'll walk us through that statement right before I get to Bobby Banton, a lawyer, to find out what he thinks about these dynamics. But Samuel, what does the statement say?
Well, so it says we write officially to petition President of the Republic of Ghana for the immediate removal of the statement that ASEPA has putting out there. It says we write to officially petition the President of the Republic of Ghana for the immediate removal of Ms. Eunice Jacqueline Asuma-Hine, a member of the Council of State of the Republic of Ghana and the CEO of LABIANCA Group of Companies, herein referred to as respondent, on the grounds of stated misbehavior pursuant to Article 89(6) of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. Now, this petition has become necessary on the basis of the official report released by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, indicting the respondent of serious allegations of corruption, insider trading, and influence peddling, among several malpractices. It is our firm belief that these allegations and the conclusive investigative report released by the Office of the Special Prosecutor constitute enough grounds for stated misbehavior as stipulated in Article 89(6). For the avoidance of doubt, Article 89(6) states that the appointment of a member of the Council of State may be terminated by the President on grounds of stated misbehavior or inability to perform his functions arising from infirmity of body or mind, and with the prior approval of Parliament. Pursuant to the provisions of this Constitution, a copy of this petition will be sent to Parliament through the Speaker of Parliament to commence actions to provide the necessary approval for the decision of the President in respect of this matter. A copy of the report by the Special Prosecutor has also been attached herein for the consideration of the President. It's signed by Mensa Thompson, the one we're speaking to.
Okay, so these are the allegations or the charges leveled against Madam Hene by ASEPA. Let me come to Bobby Banton. For you, when you look at the case like this, what are the fundamental difficulties you may have with the approach of the OSP? What are the fundamental problems that LABIANCA and her CEO, that is Madam Hene, maybe has got herself into by being a member of the Council of State and also being a board member of the Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority? Basically, what do you see? And add for me, definitely, do you see in there conflict of interest?
Good morning, Benson, and good morning to your viewers and listeners, and Mr. Thompson. Do I see?
Did you just call me Benson, though?
No, sorry.
Benjamin.
Benjamin. Did I?
You nearly gave me my first name a remix with your last name.
I hope there's no conflict of interest there.
Definitely not. All right.
Do I see a conflict of interest?
Yeah.
Definitely, there would be a perception of a conflict of interest.
Okay.
The question is, I'm talking about in respect of her sitting on the board of the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority. I'm looking at two scenarios. Of course, we all know the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority has the mandate to oversee the activities of or within the Ports and Harbour Authority, where we know that is the route of her trade. Did the President consider her experience with importing products into the country to aid the activities of the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority by putting her there? Some would say yes. Maybe the President thinks that since she conducts her activities within that space, maybe she can bring her experience to bear to the operations of the authority. That may be a consideration. One can also say, listen, once the person is in continuous trade there, can the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority be able to look at maybe any request from her and say we would deny it? That is where there is the perception of the conflict of interest. If to a neutral mind, I would think that the perception of conflict of interest should have been enough to have informed the President's decision not to nominate her, because we have found ourselves in a situation where it is not an issue of whether or not she actually did the influence peddling. It's an issue of whether or not there's the perception that she could have done the influence peddling.
And in law, we know that once there is the possibility of something, you look at that factor and not take certain steps. If you do, then there could be consequences. But let me just ask you this. Do you feel then that the President erred in even putting her forward, and I use erred in context, in putting her forward for this position as a member of the Council of State, or in fact, as a member of the board of the Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority?
Yes, I would with the Ghana member of the Ghana Ports and Harbor Authority. I think with what is happening now, with hindsight, the President would say that maybe perhaps he should not have. But I was going to in the broader corporate governance structure.
Right.
The perception or the fact that there's a possibility of conflict of interest may not necessarily deny a person's appointment. I think that the established practice is that when there's any transaction where you are part of the decision-making authority, you'd have to disclose your interest.
Exactly.
And whether or not the rest of your members would decide to proceed. So we do not know
almost like some people were calling for with the PPA boss when this issue came up.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So we do not know whether or not those internal corporate governance mechanisms exist within the Ghana Ports and Harbor Authority. Like I said, there are two scenarios. The President may have considered her experience with dealing with the Ports and Harbour Authority and say, bring that experience to bear, and the possibility of conflict of interest may be corrected or remedied if the corporate governance procedures are followed, so that if there is any decision that has to be taken regarding her operations, whether she would disclose her interest, whether she will be omitted from that decision-making process. So yes, the perception of conflict of interest is there, but the law or the corporate governance structure or regime provides for these means. I'm not in a position to say whether or not she or the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority followed this corporate governance, regime to make sure that she will not have peddled any influence in any decision regarding her operations within the
Bobby, 2 quick questions before my colleague Samuel Kojo-Brace also steps in. Very quickly. In the shoes of the chief executive of this country, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, what would you have done? And secondly, don't you find it curious that, especially as all of these authorities, yes, they operate in some way in silos, but there should be systems that cut across so that you know that whether you are working under this agency or that department or that ministry, these are certain guidelines that must be followed. And when it comes to conflict of interest, these are measures that cut across the fabric of our national, company life, so that you can't do X, Y, Z. Isn't it curious that supposedly it's a pick and choose situation?
Well, I think that the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority may, I'm not sure if it falls under the SIGA. Is it a state? There was an institution that was set up
yes,
to
SIGA.
ensure.
State Interested Government.
SIGA.
So I know that they have a policy to guide some of these things within the institution. Now, if for me it becomes an interesting situation, the fact that from the report she has refunded an amount of 1 million Ghana cedis,
right.
And if she resisted or she refutes the investigations, the outcome of the investigations of the OSP, I don't think that she would have refunded the money. And so once
the question is, why then would she have even gone ahead to refund the money?
Exactly. Once that is done, it feeds into the perception that there is an admission of certain wrongdoing on her part. Right. Because when you read the report, the OSP said that she appeared at those meetings or the interviews, for lack of a better word, with her counsel. Yeah. And so she had proper legal advice on what to do in the context of what has happened. And so if she had not refunded it and she had resisted it, they would have said, okay, maybe she has taken steps to actually say that the due process was followed. I never peddled any influence. There was no corrupt practice. But this is the case where she has refunded it. And I believe that in our criminal jurisprudence now, the refund will not happen unless the person has admitted to the allegation or the offense. And so that changes the dynamic.
Plea bargaining hasn't, so to speak, kicked in yet, but it appears
no, that is what I'm saying,
it's happening.
In the general jurisprudence of, yes, because we have, for instance, I think the late Malamise's case, where there was an instance he offered to refund, but the court was of the opinion that unless you plead guilty, you will not be allowed to, refund. And if you will not plead guilty, then we would have to go through the process. Yeah. And he opted that I will not plead guilty, so let's go through the process. And he was found guilty. So in the criminal jurisprudence, I think that the position is that once you offer to refund, then it's an admission that, okay, you have, accepted the allegations. And that changes the dynamics for me. That once she has done that, it will be difficult for her to come back to say there was no such influence, there was nothing untoward that had happened. And if I were the president now, then it would be a basis for me to say, okay, you were given this position, for instance, to bring your experience to bear, right. But it seems that you have taken advantage or abused that position. And so out of respect, if you could, just step aside from your position as a member of the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority Board, so that somebody else would come. But is it not interesting that it's a case that has come out? I believe that if we are fair to ourselves as a country, right, we would see that there are many instances where people who hold commercial interests in certain sectors of our economy have been put in charge of those sectors. And every now and then there are issues of conflict of interest, and nothing seems to happen or to be done about it. This is an instance where 1 million Ghana cedis, I believe, has been refunded.
A little over 1 million. I think 1.074 or something of the sort.
Yes. Right. In this economy where every cent matters to the government, I cringe to hear things like that. And worst of all, to see certain, or I think they call themselves an association or something, say that, oh, it is normal. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, so the freight and trade groupings and others saying that this is what happens.
Yes, it happens because you see a whole law or bill has been placed before Parliament to regulate these tax waivers, because the research has proven that Ghana loses so much money with this exercise of discretion by the authorities that collect the taxes, so they can decide to waive tax in certain amounts to certain people. And if this is a reflection of what is happening at the port, then I shudder to think how much more we have lost in these instances.
As for how much more we could have lost, only God knows. But we also have Guildfred Isiama of the CDD with us. Guildfred, a very good morning to you. Hello, Guildfred.
Hello, good morning.
Great, it's a pleasure having you. Guildfred, just hold for us. We're having this conversation, and my colleague Samuel Kojo-Brace is also here. Samuel, so you have some questions on
exactly on. I mean, Lawyer Banson was talking about that provision, or that allows importers to go and seek some bit of reduction from the GRA. The Chamber of Freight and Trade says LABIANCA did nothing wrong because it followed what the law says.
Right.
And I wanted lawyer to help us out. Looking at her position as a Council of State member, as a board member for
the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority,
because, and then that's where she does her import and export from through. How best could she have done this such that
without implicating herself,
exactly,
so to speak?
Exactly. So that's why I want to see if lawyer can help us out in that position. How best could she have done it?
Well, that is why I said that I expect, especially with my a little knowledge, not internal, not insider knowledge, but standard knowledge of the operations of or the activities of SIGA, that there should be a corporate governance regime, just like we have for the banks, just as we have for other private institutions, where if you find yourself in a situation where your commercial interest overrides or is in conflict with the interest of the institution you work for, you should disclose it at any meeting. So if she has applied for these waivers, the decision would have to be taken by the Ghana Revenue Authority, not the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. And she is not a member of the Ghana Revenue Authority. So in respect of taking advantage of those statutory provisions, one would say that, okay, on the face of it, there's no possibility of conflict of interest because she is not a member of the decision-making body that grants those waivers. But again, like I said, just like corruption, with conflict of interest, it deals more with perception. And so if you are not a member of the Ghana Revenue Authority, you are a member of the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority, I believe that the Ghana Revenue Authority would take and in this instance, the SEPS, the Customs Division, would take that decision to grant or refuse your application for waivers or tax reduction at the port in consultation with the actual institution that you are dealing with, which in this instance would be the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority. And so it again fits into the perception. The second thing that one will look at is whether or not other persons conducting her business or her nature of business also are giving these waivers. Because remember, from the complaint that was lodged, one of the things said was that she's getting market advantage because her expense structure is lower than those of her competitors. And so you ask yourself whether indeed her competitors, when they apply for such waivers, they are given the same consideration that she is also given. And that is where the question mark comes in. Is it because of her position as a member of a Council of State? One. Is it because of her position as a board member of the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority? Or three, is it because of her perceived position within or membership of the New Patriotic Party that allows the Customs Division to grant her these waivers as against other competitors of hers. So if you have evidence that her competitors, when they apply for such waivers, they are not given. And when she applies for such waivers, she is given. And in some instances, I think that the report showed that she was even given more than what was even allowed by law. Then it eats into the perception that indeed, perhaps it is a position in the, as a member of the Council of State, as a member of the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority Board, and her perceived, because I have not seen her membership card of the MPP, but her perceived membership of the MPP, that is getting these decisions to be taken in her favor. So it's all a matter of perception, but because the OSP said he did thorough investigation based on the report, well, he says that there's, I think the last part of the report said that it's open to a wider investigation. And I want to think that he used the word wider to say that we will investigate more persons connected with such activities. So with respect to, her name is LABIANCA, or LABIANCA Company Limited, I believe that the OSP may have concluded his investigation and found enough substantial evidence to back this perception. And like I said, if the woman or if the company has refunded that 1 million Ghana cedis, then it means that there's some form of admission on her part, that indeed she has gotten what per law she is not entitled to. And so we can start the conversation from that.
Bobby, right before we move on, Brace will be right back, but I just want a quick one here. So does that mean if you were her counsel, would you have suggested against this as it's some sort of admission of guilt? Would you have suggested otherwise?
Well, counsel per the ethic of our profession, if your client admits that, yes, I have done this, it is not your job to advise her against doing what is law, because we owe a duty not only to our clients, but to the court, and more importantly, to the bar or the justice delivery system. So if your client comes to say that, listen, this is actually true, to avoid prosecution, let me pay the money, and then let's this close. I do not think that it's within the ethics of our profession for you to advise against or in such instances.
Interesting. I'm told we have Dennis Amfosefa on the line.
So Bernice Amfosefa.
Bernice, okay.
Or is it Dennis?
Okay.
It's Dennis, rather.
Dennis Amfosefa, and he is with the Chamber of Freight and Trade. So let me come to you, Amfosefa. You say that per the law, GRA and LABIANCA did not err. But this is a case where LABIANCA company has also paid back over 1 million cedis in what you could say is an admission of guilt here. So where lies your suggestion that GRA and LABIANCA did not err when the company itself is in a way admitting guilt?
Okay, thank you. And I think that we need to tackle that one first. If the lawyer can read section 42, clause 5 of Act 915, the Revenue Administrative Act, okay, it states clearly, an objection against a tax decision shall not be entertained unless the person has, A, in the case of import duties and taxes, paid all outstanding taxes, including the full amount of the tax in dispute. And B, as for the B, is not important now, but the A, it is clear. He said, in the case of import duties and taxes, paid all the outstanding taxes, including the full amount of tax in dispute. It means that even if she has an objection to the short collection that the GRA arrived at, before she can even raise the objections, or before the objections can be entertained, she needs to pay. So paying, it's never an admission of guilt. So I was surprised the lawyer could say that the payment of the short collection concludes or seek to prove that she has admitted guilt. Where by law, it states that even if you have an objection to the tax or the duties that has been raised against you, before you can even raise that objection, you need to pay. So
okay, Benjamin,
we should.
if I can seek clarification
right.
from this point.
Bobby, you clarify.
The report that we have from the OSP's office does not indicate that it was a tax assessment levied against her. The regime under Act 915, the Revenue Administration Act, is completely different from the regime under the Office of Special Prosecutors Act.
You see,
Please, Mr. Allow Bobby to make his point, and then you can come in.
I'm asking for the purposes of education, because our discussion is based on the information that is out there in the public. Now we are dealing with the report, the investigative report of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. From experience with dealing with the GRA, tax matters, if the GRA raises a tax assessment and served on you, and you want to object, like you rightly said, under the Act 915, in respect of import duties, you would have to pay all. But the report that we have is not an issue of a Ghana Revenue Authority levying taxes, assessment. If that is the case, then the opposition will be right. But the report that we have, and I stand to be corrected, Benjamin, does not, the special prosecutor says that it is his investigative work that resulted in the company in question paying that 1 million cedis. And so to say that it is the Ghana Revenue, to bring the Section 42 in this context would take the attention from the OSP's report. And so if you have the evidence that indeed the Ghana the 1 million cedis was paid to the Ghana Revenue Authority based on a tax assessment, then it changes the dynamics of the question. As it stands now, I have not seen that that was actually the position. And Benjamin or your producers may say, or may correct me. So we are dealing, or I was dealing with the fact that the 1 million cedis was paid in response to the operation, the investigations of the special prosecutor, and not a Ghana Revenue, because if it is a tax assessment by the Ghana Revenue Authority, then the issue would not have taken this dynamics. Then the special prosecutor's report will not even have been necessary. There was absolutely nothing for this. There was not the tax, how do we call it? Assessment will not jump from being a pure tax issue to being an issue that borders on criminality.
Okay.
Unless you have actually concluded the regime provided under the Revenue Administration Act. And so if the position is that the 1 million Ghana cedis was paid because it was a tax assessment that was served on the company, and then the company has objected to that tax assessment, and in compliance with the Act 915, it decided to pay all of it, then let that position be clear. But if the 1 million cedis or over was paid in response to the activities of the special prosecutor, then it will not be fair to say that Section 42 would cover that it does not mean that it's we are talking about two different regimes. Criminal investigations and tax assessment. They are completely two different regimes. So if the 1 million cedis was paid because GRA was doing its work and not the work of the special prosecutor, let that be known to the public so that the discussion.
Thank you very much, Bobby. So I'm sure you get a clarification there that it's born from the OSP's report and not the GRA.
Benjamin, if you allow me to
that was actually Samuel. There are two of us on the show.
Okay, Samuel, if you allow me to make the case, you really understand it. By law, the OSP cannot, I repeat, cannot assess tax or ask anybody to pay a tax. The only institution in Ghana that is mandated by law for revenue mobilization of import and export duties is customs.
Well, but
let's get that clear.
If I may, this is to help the discussion, because you are saying
you are just interjecting. No, it's the conversation.
No, hold on. You've made a point.
The of the law. So
I'll let you make your point, but you've made a point there that it is only the OSP cannot ask anybody to pay taxes. The OSP did not say that I've asked hold on. Let me ask my question. You can add it to your answer. The OSP says that I've done my thorough investigations. I've realized that she was giving some reduction that she was not supposed to have been given, but for influence that she wields. So I'm saying that if you say the OSP asked her to pay taxes, that's not the case. The OSP investigated to see that there was some down payment that was not supposed to have been done, and that's why that money had been paid. So the discussion should be put in that context.
No, the conversation
and I normally would not do this, but because
we should limit the conversation.
All right, Bobby.
Bobby, let Amfusefa finish, and then I'll bring you in, okay, to make your point. Yeah.
You see, we should limit this conversation within the confines of the law and within laws. Let's stop thinking we should keep an open mind. Okay, number one, it is only customs that can assess taxes on import that comes into this country. Number two, the OSP by law cannot change the decision of customs when it comes to advance ruling. Let's make it clear. It is clear. Section 12, subsection 9 of the Act 891, the Customs Act. It is only the Commissioner General that can reverse a ruling. That is the ruling of reducing the benchmark value by 5 to 10% for the company, LABIANCA. Number three, the special prosecutor has no right to interfere.
Hello, Mr. Amfosefa. Are you still with us?
Of customs.
Okay. Go ahead.
Now, that is also made clear by the Supreme Court decision between Ransford France and the Electoral Commission, which the businessman was seeking to challenge the administrative discretion of the EC. So even the ruling that the Customs Division of GRA gave on behalf of LABIANCA, the SP has no authority and no right to reverse it. It can only be reversed by customs. So,
well, the connection to Mr. Amfosefa seems not to be
the additional taxes.
Your connection keeps breaking.
Can you hear me?
Please make your point briefly so we can move on.
So I was saying, the OSP cannot even reverse the decision, the administrative decision of the Commissioner General. So it was the Commissioner General himself that reversed the decision of approving or granting that 5 to 10% waiver or reduction in the value for LABIANCA. So it was based on the revision of the decision by the Commissioner General of Customs that the additional taxes or the short collections were calculated for the company. Hence, the calculation was done by the GRA, not the OSP's office. You see, if we don't get the conversation right and position it within the context of the law, and we don't give an open mind to understand
let me, Amfosefa, hold on there. Now, the Act of the Office of the Special Prosecutor says, the object of the office says, A.
Exactly.
Investigate and prosecute specific cases of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses. B. Recover the proceeds of corruption and corruption-related offenses. And C. Take steps to prevent corruption. So, from this object of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, where lies your argument that he didn't have the capacity to do what he's just done?
And please make that submission. Please make that submission very brief.
I've given you the Supreme Court's decision that the number one, and I've also given you the Act of Customs, section 12, subsection 9. That states it is only the Commissioner General that can reverse the ruling of an advance, the decision of an advance ruling. So it was the Commissioner General that probably upon hindsight reversed the ruling they have made already. And the reversal is what culminated into additional calculation or the short collection or the shortfalls within duties, with the duty that LABIANCA was supposed to pay.
All right.
Hence, the check for the payment was issued to the Customs Division of the GRA.
All right.
So it falls squarely within section 42.5 of the Revenue Administrative Act that I quoted.
All right.
That is what I wanted us to get clear.
It is clear, Mr. Amfosefa. For the sake of time, Mr. Amfosefa, please, we have to have a conversation. It is clear that we are not at idem, like the lawyers would say. We don't. Our minds have not come together. We are not in agreement on this. Bobby, I have to bring in Guildfred Esiama, but I want to give you some 40 seconds because I know you have a response. Make it very brief so we move on.
I want to ask Mr. Amfosefa just a question with your leave and with your permission, because he seems to have more information than the rest of us. The reversal by the Commissioner General, was it done before the OSP started his investigations? Was it done during the investigations of the OSP? Or was it done after the OSP has completed its investigation in respect of this same LABIANCA transaction? If you can answer that question.
Very interesting question. Mr. Amfosefa, can you quickly answer that? Do you know?
You see, I don't know. So I can.
You do not know.
If you do not know that answer, then you cannot say that the payment was done as a result of a tax assessment. Because in your
I know for a fact the payment was issued. The payment was issued to the Customs Division of the GRA.
You said it was in respect of an appeal that has been lodged against the tax.
If we have time,
and said that he has paid 1 million.
We can discuss this and situate it within the context of the law. But it seems you don't have time, so you don't even give me the opportunity to even quote the law and explain.
Okay. All right.
Let us situate all our conversations within the context of the law.
Right.
And we'll even find out.
Gentlemen, hold your fire. Hold your fire. Hold your horses. Bobby, hold your horses. Dennis, also hold your horses. We also have Guildfred Esiama of the CDD. I know you have a few questions for him as well.
No, Gilbert, thank you very much for joining us here. Now, we know that the Office of the Special Prosecutor has the mandate to prosecute cases involving politically exposed persons. What do you make of his involvement in investigating LABIANCA Company Limited?
Thank you. I think the OSP clearly established why LABIANCA qualified to be a politically, the owner of LABIANCA qualified to be a politically exposed person. So he proceeded on the investigation after establishing that this woman qualifies to be a politically exposed person before he went in to investigate. So I think that basis was clearly established in the initial stages of the investigations of the OSP before he went out to investigate this company.
So it means that there's no argument about whether or not the OSP had the capacity to do what he did. What about the payment of 1 million cedis from LABIANCA Company Limited?
Well, as the lawyers have said, I don't think I have much more to add to it. The woman admitted, and as clearly stated in the report, she was well represented when she was undergoing all those investigations at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. She agreed, she has paid, and so there are no questions about whether the woman admitted that there was some wrongdoing on her part in collision with the Customs Division, the man, Mr. Eduche or so, who fronted this kind of engagement. And there are clear issues here, which maybe, if time permits, we can interrogate further.
Sure. We'll get into some of those clear issues, but are you saying that you told the standpoint of Bobby Banson that once she made the payment under the guidance of a counsel, it was tantamount to a tacit admission that she was guilty? Is that what you're saying?
Well, on the surface of the argument or the evidence, we can't think otherwise. I think Mr. Amfosefa was trying to put something in, which I also disagree and agree with Bobby, that the route that he was trying to take to defend, the payment as being a requirement, because once there are issues raised against your tax, or there are disputes, you have to pay it. The office of the special prosecutor is different, and from the investigation, we don't know, it is not established that the woman paid this money to the Customs Division because they had raised issue. And clearly, if you look at the office of the special prosecutor the report, it shows that even the man who fronted this has not agreed that he admitted, has not agreed that he did something wrong. So clearly, there is no case, and it appears what Mr. Sifa is saying is clearly out of the picture. I totally disagree with him.
Okay. Now, what are the critical issues with this whole matter that we would have to point out?
One, the issues about the potential conflict of interest, it goes beyond just this issue, and I think it is something that we should work towards. It's not about actual conflict of interest. It's even about the potential, the likelihood that there will be a conflict of interest. And in cases of conflict of interest, the best thing to do is to even prevent it. Just prevent it from happening, because the moment you do that and people perceive that there is a likelihood of conflict of interest, it's in a way undermining the trust that people have even in public institutions, and it also undermines good governance. Again, there are clear issues about the exercise of discretion of public officers, and I think Bobby has touched on all these issues. The law goes to Parliament, is withdrawn, and now we don't know where the stage where the law is being considered. And if you give public officials a lot of discretion, which may affect the public purse, we should find a way of regulating how they exercise those discretion. And you can see clearly in the report where the special prosecutor is saying the woman applied between 50 and 80%. Per the advice of the technical board, it was rejected. But then again, we don't know of any other application before Mr. Duce went ahead and granted the woman this relief between 5 and 10%. Where was the application? Who applied for the 5 to 10% when the initial application had already been rejected? So clearly, it means that if we don't block the loopholes, if we don't tighten the rules or the framework under which public officials exercise their discretion, then we are doomed forever. So we think those are issues that we need to address. Again, when issues of corruption involve high-profile public officials, we want authorities to pay more serious attention to those issues.
Interesting. So that's a Guilfred who is with the CDD there. You can also join us on our social media platform with your thought on this particular matter. Ben.
So quite a number of issues that come to play here. Mensa Thompson is Executive Director of ASEPA. You still are with us and you've put out that statement. But how do you react to, because even as we talk about Madame Hene and LABIANCA and the managing director as well, there's also Colonel Damwa of the Customs Division who is in there. And he makes a case. He says that this is a mere suggestion, suggesting a witch hunt by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. He says this is being done with malicious intent. He talks about a certain Akurugu, whom the Special Prosecutor had wanted seconded to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And then he is saying that, that is Colonel Damwa, is saying that, guess what? There is bad blood between us, and Kisia Jabeng is merely trying to indict my deputy and me. Now, what picture does that paint? Does that not also mean that we should be interrogating the motive or the actions of the Special Prosecutor?
Well, to the extent that the actions of the Special Prosecutor was based on not just an insider decision by the OSP to go into the matter, but it was based on a petition submitted by a citizen who, or let's call the person a whistleblower, who has raised concern. And so the Special Prosecutor was only acting on a petition. And so that argument will fall very flat in any proper interrogation. But quickly, I think that Mr. Amfosefa sought to, raise certain issues on the back of the law, which for me, he was doubling in things. I think he should leave the legal things for the people with the legal brains to interrogate, because he was messing up the case for a lot of the people involved in this matter. Based on his own argument, the special prosecutor receives a petition, goes into an investigation. Then, based on his argument, Customs, based on the investigation triggered by the OSP, recovers money. That alone in itself indicts the officials there through the processes which he was alluding to in the how do you call it, the Customs Act. You see, so clearly, the problem there and the excuses that is being given by Canada Moore and the innuendos of the special prosecutor being a small boy is neither here nor there. That the special prosecutor want to destroy him is neither here nor there. I think all these things are things we can discard at this moment. Rather, let's focus on the
in law, and Bobby Banson will tell you, that's why we have the principle of audi alteram partem. Listen to the other side. If it's something that you may take for granted, but what if there were proof? And I'm saying, what if there were proof that maybe it was out of some vindictiveness? How would you feel? I mean, put yourself on the other end. How would you feel?
Well, I think that the first question you should ask is that the special prosecutor has the powers to do what he did. If he didn't have the powers, then no matter what vindictiveness that he may perceive against these individuals, he couldn't do anything. The second question is, was there an issue of wrongdoing or perceived wrongdoing? If there was no wrongdoing, no matter how much vindictive the special prosecutor is against you, he won't find anything. And so that argument should also be set aside. The critical issue that we must be interrogating here is, how did this happen? How did we get here? Why is one person being given so much power to be able to influence such a decision or the acquisition of such a large sums of tax waiver, to the detriment of the market or other competitors? How did this happen? And the principle of audi alteram partem had been satisfied by the investigation of the special prosecutor when, he did not just get up and say, look, I've received these allegations and so I'm indicting you. He did an investigation, interrogated all the individuals involved in the presence of their counsel. Based on that, monies were recovered. He issued a report. The principle of audi alteram partem has been satisfied. And so if all these arguments that these people are putting out today, the question as an outsider I will ask is, did they put forth the same argument during the interrogation at the office of the special prosecutor? They had every opportunity during the investigative processes to make their case across. Did they take advantage of that? Did they exhaust that? Why are they bombarding us with excuses? Because at the end of the day, I'm just counting on the investigative report by the office of the special prosecutor and saying that, look, based on that and the fact that some monies have been recovered, there has been some wrongdoing. And that report has taken into consideration the account of all these individuals who today are bombarding our ears with excuses. And so they can't blame anybody for they not taking advantage of the process. The special prosecutor had the power to do what he did. He was right. When he went in, it wasn't a witch hunt. If it was just a mere witch hunt, he wouldn't have recovered money. He went in, and based on the instance, he recovered money for the state. And that must be commended. That cannot be labeled as a witch hunt. Okay.
Mr. Thompson, we're grateful for your time. Thank you for having joined this conversation. Maybe we'll catch up again some other time. Let me come to Bobby Banson. From the legal standpoint, two quick questions. The first one, if there were proof of any vindictiveness or malice, as Colonel Damois purports, would that have any impact at all on the actions of the OSP? In law, would we detach whatever vindictiveness, assuming there were any, from the legal actions and the pursuit of what is lawful by the Office of the Special Prosecutor? That is question one. The second question is, you would hear of the Importers and Exporters Association, whose president is Samson Asaki Awengobit, say LABIANCA is one of our big, importers, and they've done so well, and this and that. But we feel they have erred in a way. But let's temper justice with mercy. How do you react to that? Is that the way to go? So those two questions for you, Bobby.
Remind me if in my answer I forget one of them.
So we could start with vindictiveness and malice and what its impact could be.
Benjamin, we as a country, one of our major issues is what we are facing with the reactions of the so-called powers that be. I have read some social media commentary that is attacking the personality of Mr. Ijabi. Listen, I have not.
They say he's a small boy. He's a small boy.
Yes, I have not always agreed with some of the things he has done in the office of a special prosecutor. But when he was appointed, I was happy because, you see, this is somebody who is an established lawyer, who is established. He's not in the office of a special prosecutor because he doesn't have other work to do. He's not in the office of a special prosecutor because he is a known political apparatchik, let me put it that way, of the ruling government. And I'm using the word known. You understand what I mean? He offered, and I want to think so, to serve his country in that capacity. We are trying to build the institution of the special prosecutor after the first special prosecutor exited in a way and in a manner that is not the subject of our discussion. And so we will need somebody who may not be perfect, may make mistakes, but is sacrificing to create an institution. So my view of his approach is that let's create a strong institution vis-a-vis a strong personality. Now, when you see comments like, oh, he's a small boy, he said he will come after me, I have been here longer than him, then you are seeing that people are focusing on personalities instead of institutions. Now, in the course of his investigations, he said that he contacted or heard the persons who would have been affected by his reports. Now, the law provides for malicious prosecution as a thought, so that if Colonel Damois is of the firm of opinion that, and there has not been any prosecution yet, so that the report or the activities of the special prosecutor is malicious, the law allows for how he will ventilate his grievance. Two, if we have a group that says that this is our biggest or one of our biggest member, and so we should temper justice with mercy. To make that statement is an admission that something has gone wrong. Now, if we say we are tampering justice with mercy, are we doing that only because the company is, for lack of a better word, a big company? We are a country that is supposed to be ruled by law, and everybody is equal before the law, irrespective of how deep your pocket is, your political connections, or who you know. Otherwise, we'll be celebrating 100 years of independence, and we'll still be where we are if we still have this mentality. And that is why I go back to say that over 1 million Ghana cedis has been recovered. Do we know what that 1 million Ghana cedi can do for somebody living in a place where he has no access to potable water? And we are allowing it to go because the person is one of our biggest importers? What of the other competitors? And for me, my argument comes back to that fact, that the complaint to the Special Prosecutor's Office was done by a named person who says that the waivers that this person is getting is affecting competition. So does it mean that this association of exporters or importers they do not have members who have been affected by these undue exercise of discretion in such a way that not only the country will lose, it is killing other businesses. So should we allow only one company to enjoy all these benefits so that every other company would cease to exist? I do not think that the exercise of discretion to waive certain taxes is meant to be used as a tool to create a monopoly. Other than that, there will not be no country. Then we should leave the country for only so-called big men or big businesses. And there will not be avenues for younger businesses or people who do not have deep pockets to be able to grow their business as well. And so I find those comments very interesting and an attempt not to help the country build stronger institutions, but rather focusing on stronger personalities. And we will not go anywhere if that is the focus of our body politics.
Bobby, let me just come in here. I wanted to wrap on this. I'll just bring in something brief. We have to move on and talk about affairs in Parliament and all of that. But what you said just reminded me of this quote by Justice Ashok Bhushan, who says, "Justice must be tempered with mercy, but justice cannot be substituted for mercy." Justice must be tempered with mercy, but justice cannot be substituted for mercy. So with that, with the precedent we have now, what do you look forward to seeing as the special prosecutor has signaled he will pursue this matter to its logical conclusion? 30 seconds on that. 30 seconds to Guildfred as well, what you'd like to see, and then we shall move on to the next subject.
I will be very disappointed if there is no criminal prosecution. I will be extremely disappointed.
You'll be very disappointed if there's no criminal prosecution?
Yes, and I'll be disappointed if she still remains as a member of the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority. I have my own legal difficulties with Asepe's petition for the president to remove her as a member of Council of State because...
So you disagree with that one? You disagree with that?
Yes, wait, I'm yet to confirm, or I don't know, you can correct me, if she was elected.
She was elected.
Yes, so
she was elected from the Western region.
If she was elected, I think there may be a difficulty because the article that makes reference to the president's power to remove makes reference to it uses the word appointed. And if you look at the composition of the Council of State, there are those appointed by the president and there are those that are elected.
Okay.
So I want to think, I stand to be corrected, that the president may not have the authority to remove persons who are elected to the Council of, and may have the authority to remove persons who are appointed. So that I will leave it for the constitutional lawyers, for lack of a better word. But as for the criminal prosecution and her position as a member of the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority, I'll be surprised if nothing is done about it.
Mm-hmm. Quickly, Guildfred, on the same point, very quickly as we move on to the next conversation.
Well, we expect all the other agencies, public agencies involved who can help the special prosecutor to do this job to cooperate, as he stated his intention to open this conversation to cover many other issues. So that is one of the expectations. Again, we are also calling for a strengthening of our beneficial ownership regime, which was helpful in identifying the beneficial owners of LABIANCA. And I'm sure if we go on identifying many others, it will be very helpful, to us in the fight against corruption. Again, the woman must resign or be sacked. One of them will be better for all of us. Thank you.
Interesting suggestions there. Amfosefa is still with us. Amfosefa, I'm sure you've listened to all the suggestions and all the thoughts shared on this particular subject. Going forward, what will be your concluding remarks on this? What should be the way forward for us in this particular matter?
For us as a chamber, our position is clear. Everything that was done by the Customs Division of the GRA was within the confines of the law. They didn't err. They acted within the confines and that the Acts provide, Act 891, Section 12. So they didn't err, and we still stand by that position. And the payment of the short collection is not an admission of guilt.
Amfosefa's line is quite
guilt, because short provided for in the Section 7 of the same Act. Hence, still stand by that position that we struggle.
Well, I think that is where the connection, Mr. Amfosefa, is the problem.
We are grateful to him.
It's
Thank you.
It's
Thank you for
unfortunate
joining us.
that we've had to. We'll have to sew it up there.